Good afternoon. I'm Jude Meyers, Superintendent of Gallia County Local Schools. I would like to welcome you to our broadcast of School Pride Countywide. Today featuring a colleague and friend, Mr. Ed Moore. He is the principal at River Valley Middle School. We hope you will join us for our broadcast. Good afternoon. My name is Jude Meyers, Superintendent of Gallia County Local Schools. Welcome to our actual September broadcast of School Pride Countywide featuring the Gallia County Local Schools. I'm really fortunate today to be joined by Mr. Ed Moore. He is the principal at River Valley Middle School, and we'll be visiting him in his building shortly. But I want to do, as I always do with my broadcast, first tell a little bit about Gallia County Local Schools, and obviously I want to thank the University of Rio Grande for their support, opening up their TV studio for us. This allows us to get out our message, and we really appreciate the folks here at the University of Rio Grande allowing us to share our message. Gallia County Local Schools, as you know, encompasses most of Gallia County. We have 7 buildings. We have River Valley High School, River Valley Middle School. We have 4 elementary buildings in the district, and that includes Vinton, Attaville, Southwestern, and Hannon Trace. And then we have a combined middle school, high school, South Gallia, which is located down in Mercerville as well. I'm blessed to be supported by wonderful administrators throughout the district, and we offer multiple programs to our students. We've really taken an interest in our arts, in our athletics, in our band, and our choir. We've done a lot with our AP program. Within the last year, recognized by AP on the AP National Honor Roll, where we're competing with schools throughout the state of Ohio, like the Worthingtons and Walnut Hills and some of these prestigious districts that have been so noted, and to see our names on that list, it makes us very proud, and that's a compliment to our teachers and our staff, administrators who work really hard. Probably the best thing with our district is that we do not have any participation fees for our kids. We know that a lot of our families experience poverty. A lot of our families barely have enough to get by, and we feel the value of these extracurricular programs are important for our kids, so we try to do that at no cost to the kids. We want our kids to participate, whether it be in athletics and band and choir, and we also support a lot of the organizations around the community that help support these activities that go on in our buildings. I wanted to start my broadcast today with a very serious topic, and I kind of call this my State of the Union message. Here we are in September of 2019, and Gallia County Local Schools has been hit with some financial issues. And realistically, those financial issues stem back to the devaluation of our coal-fired plant, the Gavin plant, which is located within our district. And what that means to Gallia County Local Schools is that hurts us in the sense that we will receive about $1.5 million less in funds than what we would receive on a normal basis. So when you're a $28 million operation and you take a $1.5 million hit, that makes it very difficult. So what we've been trying to do throughout the process as we get resignations and people taking jobs maybe somewhere else or retirements, we try not to replace those positions unless there's an absolute need, and then try to save that money and apply it to that loss of money that we've had. I'm sure Mr. Moore will be able to share here later on in our broadcast, even reducing our staff has hurt at the building level. And so what we've been trying to do is advocate to get this change. There's a piece of legislation out there that recognizes that when schools devalue that much on a local level, that we need help from the state. But unfortunately, the legislation right now doesn't allow us to do that because of some flaws in the funding formula. So we've actually been to Columbus, we've contacted our legislators, we've contacted numerous people, there's community leaders, we're reaching out to everyone we know possible to advocate on our behalf because and this, I guess, is one of my issues. Kids in Appalachia do not have the same advantages that kids have elsewhere in the state of Ohio. This desperately is hurting our kids, and we want to fight that fight to make it right. And we're going to work tirelessly to make sure we get that situation fixed. I know there's a piece of legislation out there right now. It's called House Bill 6. Unfortunately, House Bill 6, I've testified in Columbus, it really is a bailout for the nuclear power plants. And if people in Gallia County were aware that they are going to actually take fees, or I guess you could call money out of your electric bill, about 250 cents on the average customer. If you are a small business, that goes up. If you're a larger business, it goes up. If you're a corporate business, it goes even higher. And this money that is going to be this tax, they're going to actually send to 2 districts up north, one being the Davis-Besse power plant and the other one being the Perry power plant. So it's kind of the reverse Robin Hood effect, where they're actually going to be taken from folks not only in Gallia County, and they're going to piggyback that bailout on our electric bill and send them to 2 districts, when here we are with our coal-fired plants devaluing, we're losing money, and nobody is sending anything our way. So it's a real frustrating time for the district. We've had some frank conversations. At the building level, it's been, everybody's worried about jobs and security and how we're going to educate our kids. And it's become my primary focus as we enter into this school year. We're going to continue to fight the fight. We feel that our voices are being heard, but it's going to take a greater effort, Mr. Moore, as you know, to get this thing fixed. And coming from Northern Ohio, I can tell you it is not all equal when it comes to education. And for example, our buses drive far larger and longer roads. Many of them aren't paved. It takes an hour sometimes to get our kids to school, where in my previous district it might have taken 15 to 20 minutes on paved roads that are always treated and things of that nature. And again, all I want for our kids is the same opportunity that any kid in the state of Ohio has for their education. And as we get hit financially, it makes your job at the building level all that more difficult to have. So I guess I'll get off my high horse and we'll jump into the broadcast and talk about some positive things.
Good.
But I do want our community to be aware, and I want to go on the record on this broadcast as a public record to say we need help, we need support, we need to right a wrong. And I will stand behind that, and I will fight that battle until I can fight that battle no longer. So that's important to me. So seated to my right is Mr. Ed Moore.
Afternoon, Jude.
I would be lying if I said a colleague. He is a colleague, but he is a friend. I am a huge fan of Mr. Moore, have been since the day I got to Gallia County, and I consider Ed to be, he is somebody that I can go to when I know I'm having some difficult decisions to make, because he's compassionate, he's kind, he's thoughtful, he takes time to process, and he generally will say to me, let me think about that a little bit, but I really value his opinions, I value his judgment, and more than anything, I value his friendship.
Thank you.
So Mr. Moore is here with us today, and I'm going to let you do some talking here, because what I'd like you to do, Ed, is to share with our folks a little bit about Ed Moore, his journey through Gallia County. I know you're principal now at River Valley Middle School, but you've had a life prior to River Valley Middle School, and I know you've had some military as well. I'd just like to hear a little bit about the Ed Moore story, your wonderful wife, Tammy, anything you want to share.
Well, I think you've captured part of it, Jude, is that, we are rural, southern Ohio, but it is important. These topics are important. We value our children. We value the success that we've made, the progress that we've made over the years in Gallia County education. And as a district, it's not only community, working with parents, but with teachers, working with staff, is that it's amazing what we have been able to accomplish and compete with many of the upper Arlingtons and some of those level schools. And yes, we have work to do, but when you see the growth and you see the value in our children's eyes, that's important. 31st year as an educator in Gallia County local schools, I rode those school buses, those long school buses up and down dirt roads. I went to a high school where we had limited access to technology. I had great opportunities that were presented to me by hardworking teachers and administrators who cared. I did go to Rio Grande College. I was able to, the United States Army and Engineer Corps provided me with an education. I've came back to Gallia County, and for the last 30 years I've worked as a social studies teacher. I've worked as a basketball coach, football coach, track coach, but what I did mainly is I coach students. And for the last 6 years I've been, just one of my life goals is to work with students, and I've been the principal at River Valley Middle School located in Bidwell, Ohio. Great kids, great community. But there's a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of things that children face. There's a lot of things that our community faces and that our staff faces. And we've been very fortunate, that we've been able to work together, and we've continued to make a lot of progress. But those challenges just keep coming for our students. And I continue to plan to serve Gallia County and the students, for a long time. But there's a lot of obstacles and challenges out there for our kids.
And this is kind of a loaded question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What's a typical day like for Mr. Ed Moore?
Typical day. Okay.
I know the answer is you don't have a typical day.
There is no typical day. As at middle school, 6:30, I go in, I greet the janitor. We talk about our plan for the day. Say, good morning, Fred. Good morning, Mr. Moore. It's kind of like that cartoon of Wile E. Coyote and the sheepdog. It's that, how's it going? And then we just go do what we have to do. But we're supportive of each other. By 7:05, we have students rolling through the door, and they're coming from all over the district. The students that come to River Valley Middle come from Patriot, they come from Gage, they come from Bidwell, they come from Vinton. They come from Addison and the Addaville, so we get the Vinton, Addaville, Southwestern, and then we have several open enrollments, and we have the breakfast program, the grant where our kids can go to a bar or breakfast bar, and we can make sure as they come in the door they get an opportunity to get something to eat, and at the same time we have a cook that's preparing hot meals or an alternative there, so they eat, and we get the socialization out of the way. And we try to do that as structured as possible on the kids, and then we go to classes, and we value ourselves as an American hometown public school, and we begin our day with the national anthem and a pledge. And some days, depending on what kids need are going on, is that we close the door, and I may even have a private prayer to myself from time to time. We have a block schedule. Where our kids they will move around we have our classes from the basic core classes that we also offer career tech for 7th and 8th grade. Excuse me. We also have French that we offer at the end of the day. We have an excellent algebra program for our kids. So we offer a lot, and then we like to rotate our schedule so that we can't bring all 380 kids together at one time when it's time to switch classes. We rotate by grade levels, and you wouldn't think we had 380 in building, but when you dismiss school and they go to buses at 2:35, is that you would believe it.
And I can imagine even on a typical day, in a moment your day can change. Okay,
Oh, absolutely.
A power outage, something happens where there's an accident. You may have to. Who knows what it could be? It could be any situation. It could be a public emergency that's within the area that you have to adjust to, and you may have a situation at home that's coming into your building that day, and now you're dealing with your counselors and things of that nature. So I think one of our administrators described it pretty well when they said they didn't realize until they got into administration what happened on the other side of the door. And once you realize what happens on the other side of the door, you might not be as critical as to your perceptions and realities.
And there are no cookie cutter textbooks or answers for what to do. Is that each child's needs tend to be different, whether it's a social need or an emotional need, and academic. And that's the main goal, was that when they come to us as sixth graders, and as we look at progression, is we try to find out what that child's needs are academically, and even socially and emotionally. And we just start building on that, and we just start filling gaps, and we start trying to develop those kids where they're at. And the goal is, by the time they're 8th grade, is that we're preparing them to go on to high school.
So let me come back to one of the things we just talked about. And I know you mentioned various communities that funnel into River Valley, but what is the challenge of taking kids from primarily the three elementaries, our Vinton, our Attaville, and Southwestern, and now they come in as they haven't met a lot of these kids. Now they're coming into a 6th grade class where they're all together. We have a few open enrollment people coming in as well. How do those kids, how do you make that transition work for them? And then obviously I think that would fall on your 6th grade team right now.
It does, and I have a fantastic 6th grade team. We found one of the most effective ways is through our Leader in Me program, is that we try to establish roles and responsibilities for kids to feel like they're a part of something, and students that have never had a chance to lead or to be seen or heard, is that now they're becoming very important. If it's my turn, I'm supposed to pass out the journals, or I'm supposed to collect the Chromebook at the end of the day to make sure they're all plugged in. Is we're trying to make those kids, doesn't matter whether they're a Southwestern kid, a Vinton kid, or an Attaville kid, is we want to make them feel part of something, and then develop that through their adolescence. And as they grow, is that it becomes more challenging in different ways, but better in others.
Well, and you mentioned Leader in Me, and we've talked on previous broadcasts. The Leader in Me initiative is one that is really a district-wide initiative.
Yep.
Its implementation at the elementary is different than what it is at the middle school, is different than what it is at the high school. And it's based on the work of Covey and his 7 principles, the highly effective, and now they say students.
Right.
But we've also embraced it as a staff as well, and now we're working on that common vocabulary. Take me through where you think you're at with Leader in Me, and what are your goals for that program as we enter into that this year?
Now we're talking as a school or staff?
Just as
or
a school.
Is that we are going to continue to do the journal studies, and then what we're doing is we're infusing activities, leadership activities into that. And so yes, you're seeing different bulletin boards and paintings go around the school, but we also are continuing to develop the language so that when we're working with a student, and a student is maybe having difficulties working with other students, is that we can say, well, let's stop and let's what's a win-win here, okay? Or let's talk about this person's emotional bank account. What did you put in or what did you take out? Well, how do you think that person felt, and how do you feel about that? Is that the language is becoming common to us, or if a student's saying, well, Mr. Moore, can I go down to the lunchroom and play these games at the end of the day? And we're saying, well, first things first, where are you at on your vocabulary? Where are you at on your Alex program? On your study island well, I don't have my tickets for the day. Well, ask me that question when you've completed your work. Let's put first things first. And so I think those are the simple. We talk about 7 habits. Those are habits that we as adults should be mirroring to each other, modeling, and that students need to continue to develop through their life. And so that's our main goal right now, is to make sure that we're talking the talk and we're walking the walk, and then we're reinforcing the students with activities that they can demonstrate leadership.
And I think I'm really curious as we move further into the program, as you get the kids that come through the elementary program, and they already know those things. I know
we're seeing it.
That you're going to see the academic components, which is really exciting, where the kids are going to be tracking their own data and taking ownership of what they're doing. So we're really excited. I know at our board meeting just the other night, a lot of the principals shared what they felt was happening with our Leader in Me initiative, and it was really exciting to hear how they feel it's starting to change the culture and things of their buildings. And as we talk about the culture of buildings,
sure,
I always enjoy coming to your building. For people that don't know from our broadcast, every time I go into Mr. Moore's building, he'll say, Mr. Meyers, we'd like to see what's going on in the classroom. And it never fails me. And so we take these trips into the classroom, and whether it be Ruth Warden walking in to see Ruth teaching and building roller coasters with her kids, and I don't even know the scientific terms for what she was teaching, but she has the kids engaged. Amy Hatfield with her wonderful teaching, all the wonderful things that are going on. But I know it never fails. We walk into a classroom and you'll ask the students, what's your objective today? What's your outcomes going to be? And those kids, this is why I know Mr. Moore's in the classroom, because those kids don't look like a deer in the headlights. They're more than happy to share, here's what we're doing today, and here's why we're doing what we're doing. And you'll always follow up with this whole thing that says why. And they can, so tell me a little bit about your staff. And, I know you've got a wonderful librarian that works in many ways, Lisa Ritchie.
I do. I have the most unique staff in the district. You have to be unique, and you have to be just willing to step out of your regular everyday paradigm as a middle school staff member. I have great custodians. Fred is 6'5", big friendly bear, but does anything he can to help kids. Cassie is, she's an energetic secretary, can get it all done. I have an excellent assistant principal, Mr. Nance, who helps with runs the athletic department, communicates. We communicate all the time. It's just we can finish each other's sentences half the time. If I go down through my teams, when I call them teams, like in the 6th grade team, is that, Mrs. Hatfield, Mrs. Jacks, is that, they're different in every way, but they always work toward common goals. And you throw Mr. Small in there, who's a science guy and a sports nut. The kids, he relates well to, to a lot of the students. My 7th grade team works super great together. You have a math-minded Lori Graham, who just, she's excited, and she has some of the best methods. Is that she's the type of teacher that, if I had a math student, I want them in her classroom. And then you have Mr. Brown across the hallway, who, with algebra, we're just always excited about what our algebra students can show. Mr. Angel and Mr. Holliday are working together, even though they're ELA and science. Is that one of our main initiatives? Is that we want to increase the reading level and proficiency of our kids. So we have a common goal in our building, which is to increase the reading ability of each student. Doesn't matter if they're a talented, gifted student, or if they're a student that has an IEP or 504, is that evidence has to be in place for every child that we're teaching. And our goal is that over this year, they're going to show growth in reading. And we feel that that's going to impact the rest of the school. And everything that we do. I have Mrs. Bryant, who's a super 8th grade social studies teacher. I can tell you that they'll be learning different parts of the Constitution, and they'll be creating essays that go beyond just a standard format. Is that they have to present why is this important, and I think that's something that gets missed. And you'd mentioned Miss Warden, is that it's just you want to see STEM exercise after STEM exercise. Is that she could have wrote the book on some of those activities. And then a Miss McGuire, who that you never see her during the school day because she's always in her classroom helping a child in 8th grade for math. She comes out sometimes to go to the bathroom or to eat, but in the morning she's helping students with their math. With her lunch, she helps students with their math. End of the day, when she needs some planning, she may be helping a student with the math. And that's the kind of teachers that I have.
And that's the climate that I feel when I walk into your building. You've got a dynamic staff, whether it be our band choir that starts in the morning, some of our special needs kids with some of the support staff around them.
Absolutely.
You've got an exceptional staff, which kind of leads us into how do you organize it all? And I know you have something called a BLT.
Right.
Not a sandwich you get at the Wendy's or something, but it's the building
leadership team.
If you want to tell a little bit about that. And
sure. I committed, I committed a long time ago to the continuous improvement process about using BLTs to help do shared leadership. I believe that as stakeholders in the building, that teachers should be in the planning and the decision making, and that once those are made, that you need to support them. Okay, there's always someone we can point a finger at, but eventually there's always, if you point, there's always 4 that come back to you, and ultimately, we as a staff. So our BLT is that we plan out our calendar events by the quarter. We communicate those goals to the teacher-based teams, and then we live by it. And if it works, then we build upon it. And if it doesn't, then we look at doing something different. But no, we have very committed building level team. And it's a shared leadership and input, and it works. And again, many of those things we build on, and then some of them it doesn't work, we come back and we try to improve it.
You know, it's interesting, as we prepared for today, we talked about our topics, and I think the only negative thing about today is we're not going to get close to hitting all of our topics, which means I'm going to have you come back again, which I'm sure excites you.
That would be fine.
But I do want you to talk a little bit about the opportunities kids have at the school as far as extracurricular activities. If you're a student going to River Valley Middle School, and I know it varies from 6th grade on up,
Sure.
what might they be a part of if they choose?
Absolutely. Our students, we have student council where students are interested in helping to make decisions for the school and being part of that. We have beta program, which is one of the largest, if not the largest beta program in the state of Ohio. And we talk about academic achievement, character, and about service to others. You know, we have a fantastic after-school program that's provided by the ESC office here at Rio Grande, and just a wonderful staff with Ms. Stout on that. So we offer a fantastic after-school program. You know, we provide Quiz Bowl. You know, we provide many opportunities for our kids just to to participate in sports that are not fee-driven, and basketball, football, track, and volleyball. And we take that time to work with our kids, and we've never told our kids that there's nothing they can't do, and if they're willing to put forth the effort, it seems like someone is always willing to step up and help them.
Well, and I noticed you mentioned the ESC, the after-school program. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Dr. Shockley.
Absolutely.
Who, through the ESC here, housed at the University of Rio Grande, but how supportive she is of our district, whether it be professional development for our teachers, whether it be through grant funding that she's, is able to bring back to our schools in funding the after school. And also Jamie Nash, the new superintendent at Buckeye Hills, because I know we're partnering with him to do some opportunities for career tech
program
and things even at the middle school level. So, when they say it takes a village, I think we've got some people in that village that help support us as we move forward. Not only that, you've got a partnership with River Valley High School, and I think what's it like? I mean, what do you do between the schools? And I know we're running down to the last few seconds, but talk a little bit about that before we wrap up.
We do everything from shared, like tonight we'll have the homecoming parade, as we have people we're always welcome and encouraged to participate in that. We'll have the Raider Day activities and events to support the high school. If we need, Mr. Edwards has always been great. If we need students or if we need someone from the high school to come and help, he and Mr. Stevens have always been excellent in just supporting us, just whatever ways we need, academically, athletically. It's a good team. We work good together.
Well, as we wind down, I want to thank my guest, Mr. Ed Moore, a phenomenal administrator, a better friend. This is Jude Meyers, Superintendent of Gallia County Local Schools. This is School-Wide County Pride. Thank you for joining us.